As the Vault Hunters ascended the narrow stairs back into the tavern, the once vibrant hum of Lucky's tavern was replaced by a hollow quiet. Light from shattered windows filtered through dust and ash in golden shafts, landing across overturned chairs, broken mugs, and streaks of blood on the wooden floorboards. Lucky stepped into the room first and stopped. His breath caught in his throat as he took in the scene. Bodies he had once served drinks to lay strewn across the blood-stained floor. The bar, his pride and joy, was splintered in places, with shelves of bottles shattered behind it. Tables were flipped or broken outright, and someone, probably a panicked survivor, had used a crossbow bolt to scrawl something desperate on one wall before it was too late. Lucky looked around, mouth slightly open. He took a few steps forward, boots crunching over broken glass. "My tavern," he finally said. His voice was numb with disbelief. "Do you know how hard it's going to be to get the bloodstains out of this shit?" Adriel narrowed her eyes and stepped up beside him, arms crossed. "What about the people, Lucky?" she snapped, her voice edged with sorrow. "These were people." Lucky blinked, then looked around again, as if only now seeing the bodies for what they were. "Oh yeah, shit," he scratched the back of his head. "My paying customers." Adriel gave him a long, flat stare. He winced under her gaze. May they rest in peace." With a sigh, she shook her head and turned toward the Vault Hunters. Her expression was weary, worn down by too much death, too many close calls. She gestured toward the tavern's open doorway, where the charred remains of the street beyond lay in grim silence. "Go," she said. "See if there's anything else left, or anyone else." The Vault Hunters nodded grimly and made their way out of the tavern once more, ready to face whatever horrors still lingered in the aftermath of the attack on Shadow Grove. The Vault Hunters stepped cautiously into the ruined potion shop. Glass crunched beneath their boots as they scanned the wreckage. Shelves that had once proudly displayed a rainbow of shimmering elixirs were now splintered and scattered. Bottles shattered. Liquids pooled into sticky, iridescent stains on the floor. The air was thick with the acrid tang of spilled alchemy, magic gone stale and spoiled. Behind the counter, Cliff was the first to spot the shopkeeper. Slumped across the countertop, the man was deathly still. A slick, dark pool had formed beneath him, blood trickling from a deep gash across his neck. But it wasn't the wound that sent a chill down Cliff's spine. It was the X carved crudely into the center of the man's forehead, just like the others. A brutal mark. A warning. A ritual. Cliff lowered his revolver with a clenched jaw. Too late for him. Suida stepped past, scanning the shelves for anything salvageable. Much of the inventory had been destroyed. Potion bottles shattered into fragments, reagents melted together in pools of unrecognizable goo. But amidst the chaos, her sharp eyes caught glints of intact glass. She crouched and carefully plucked out a trio of elixirs still unbroken, their labels partially faded but readable. Elixir of rapid healing, elixir of mana flow, elixir of elemental resistance. And nestled behind a collapsed shelf was something stranger. A swirling, mismatched bottle wrapped in bright twine with a tag that simply read, "Tina's Rando Potion." She held it up, turning it slightly in the light. The contents shimmered with unpredictable colors, pink, green, then a violent red, before settling on a chaotic swirl of them all. Whatever it did, it would be interesting. Mr. Phantom watched silently from the doorway, Godric's staff still faintly glowing at his side, unable to revive the dead in this cursed state. Every lifeless body with an X on its head weighed heavier than the last. The potion shop, like so much of Shadow Grove, was no longer a place of wonder. It was a grave. And the Vault Hunters knew they'd only begun to understand the horrors that had taken root here. The weapon shop felt like a tomb. The moment the Vault Hunters stepped inside, they were met with the stale scent of scorched wood and ozone. The shelves that once overflowed with firepower and sharpened steel were nearly empty. Whatever hadn't been looted was scattered and broken. And behind the counter, a grim display. The weapons vendor was nailed to the wall, a power sword driven straight through his chest and deep into the stone behind him. Arcs of electricity cracked and danced across the sword's hilt, pulsing like a heartbeat. Blue-white sparks cast flickering light on the bloodied walls, turning the corpse's pale face into a shadowed mask. Cliff approached cautiously, eyes narrowing as he studied the scene. No X, he muttered, noting the forehead was untouched, unlike the others. Mr. Phantom stepped forward, raising Godric's staff slightly, but stopped. The body was still pierced. No resurrection could take place while the sword held him like some grotesque pin. He lowered the staff. "Not yet," he said coldly. Cliff cracked his neck and squared his stance. "I got this," he said. With both hands, he grabbed the hilt of the power sword and pulled. The moment the weapon shifted, a violent surge of electricity exploded outward with a crackling detonation. A blinding arc of blue light flared through the room. Cliff was launched like a ragdoll. His body crashed backward through the shattered remains of the weapon shop door, skidding across the stone road of Shadow Grove. Smoke curled off his jacket. He groaned, coughing once, and slowly rolled to his side. From inside the shop, Suidas stepped into view, arms crossed, watching the aftermath of Cliff's flight. She stared at the impaled body, then over at Cliff still groaning in the street. "Yeah? Nope," she said flatly. "His ass can stay right there." Mr. Phantom simply tilted his head. The power sword continued to hum, quiet and menacing, its purpose unfinished. The sun dipped behind the ruins of Shadow Grove, painting the sky with streaks of dying orange and purple, as if the world itself mourned the massacre. Smoke rose from the shattered Magitech tanks and burning wreckage of Atlas and Hyperius alike, curling into the quiet twilight like ghostly tendrils of grief. The Vault Hunters stepped back into the main street, weary from grief and battle, to find the remnants of their allies waiting for them. Lord Sadler stood, no longer slumped or bleeding, though a fresh bandage wrapped across his ribs. Luna hovered near him, checking the bolt tension on her crossbow, eyes darting between shadows. Adriel stood apart, staring into the crackling remains of a burning Atlas vehicle, the flicker of fire reflecting in her eyes. And Lucky, of course, was kneeling by one of the dead Atlas soldiers, grumbling while looting pouches for valuables. Sadler raised his voice just enough to draw them in. "It seems that we are no longer safe here in this sanctuary." The weight in his tone struck deeper than his words. His gaze drifted to the hollowed-out remains of the street, then slowly toward the Vault Hunters. "Adriel and Luna have brought to my attention that we must move Shadow Grove." Cliff arched an eyebrow. "Move it? Like, actually move the town?" Sadler nodded. "On your ventures, I need you to gather a large amount of iridium. A siren can use a massive surge of it to quite literally lift this sanctuary into the sky." Suidas tilted her head. "Wait, iridium? You mean the glowing purple stuff?" "Exactly." Sadler's voice was grave. "Iridium is an element found all across the Wonderlands, released onto Pandora after the originals opened the vault. Sirens can harness it, enhance their powers, heal, even manipulate reality, but it comes at a cost. It's addictive. Too much, too often, and a siren becomes dependent on it. It becomes their lifeblood." He glanced to Suidas. "You'll feel it when the time comes. Power like that always leaves its mark." Mr. Phantom said nothing, his hands subconsciously resting on Godric's staff. Sadler continued, "Iridium also powers most of the Magitech used by Hyperius, Atlas, even Maliwan. It's more than magic or fuel, it's the legacy of the Iridians. The guilds mine it, hoard it, weaponize it." Suidas frowned. "So, what exactly do you mean by moving the sanctuary?" Sadler turned toward the crumbling remains of a watchtower still smoldering. "Quite literally, raise the entire town into the air, leave a crater behind, make it mobile, untouchable." Adriel stepped forward, brushing hair from her face, smudged with ash. "We've discovered something else. The people Hyperius killed, they weren't just murdered. They were hexed, marked with Kandarian sigils. That X on their foreheads isn't just a calling card. It blocks resurrection through Godric's staff." Mr. Phantom's eyes narrowed behind his mask. Adriel continued, "And worse, Kandarian demons can still possess those corpses. If even one is left intact, the infestation spreads like wildfire. The Nibblenomicon is in Hyperius's hands now. We have to find it and destroy it. But before that, we need the remaining 2 members of the Shadow Council." Luna stepped up now, brushing dust off her coat. "Find them, bring them back, and gather as much iridium as you can. Once the Council's whole and we have what we need, we'll launch this place into the clouds. The bastards won't reach us again." Adriel turned away, eyes settling once more on the carnage. "For now, we cremate the fallen. We can't risk leaving their bodies intact, not with the Nibblenomicon still out there." The Vault Hunters nodded solemnly. One by one, they began gathering the dead, friend and foe alike, and carried them toward the center of town. A pyre was built from splintered beams, broken furniture, and the shattered remains of Magitech tanks. As night fully settled over Shadow Grove, the flames rose like a beacon of sorrow and defiance, crackling high into the sky. Lucky, standing by the fire, watched the flames for a moment before muttering, "Damn waste of drinking buddies." No one laughed, but the faintest smile touched Cliff's lips. It was a start. A long road waited ahead, and the night had been endless, but the Vault Hunters knew one truth. This was their home, and they would fight for it. Tomorrow, the hunt for the Shadow Council and the war against Hyperius would continue. But tonight, they rested.